So now, guys, what we're going to look at is we're going to look at solving other types of polynomial inequalities. So like this example would be a cubic. This is already in factored form. So step one, we're using the same steps that we did with the quadratic. Step one is complete. The next thing that we got to do is just set each of them equal to 0 so we could find out what the zeros are. And when I do that, I know that x equals 1, x equals 2, and x equals 3. So now we're going to set up our number line with these values built in, 1, 2, and 3. So I know my zeros are 1, 2, and 3. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose values that are in between. So like in this example, I'm going to choose 1.5 for the value between 1 and 2. I'm going to plug 0 in because that value is less than 1. My other test value I'm going to choose is 2.5 because that's between 2 and 3. And then I'm going to choose 4. So I'm going to plug each of these in, okay? So I'm going to ask you guys just to pause those, or just plug those values in, and then we will talk about it in a second. Plug 0 in, I got -6. -6 is not greater than or equal to 0, so that's not a solution. But 1.5 gets me 0.375, which is greater than or equal to 0, so that is a solution. So I know that there are solutions between 1 and 2. 1 and 2 have solutions. 2.5 does not get me a solution. That's 0.375. Sorry about that. And then when I plugged 4 in, I got 6, which is greater than 0, which is true. So I know that this would be my number line that shows my values that are solutions. So I know anything between 1 and 2 are solutions, with anything from 3 all the way up to infinity are solutions. Okay? So I'm going to ask you guys just to pause the video for a second. I'm going to ask you to try this one. And when you guys are done, we'll talk through it and talk about what you guys got. So, like I said, each of these equal to 0. I got zeros to be 0, 4, and 6. The values that I chose that were less than 0, I got -2, which got me 96, which is not less than 0. I chose 2, which was between 0 and 4, which I got -16, which is a solution because -16 is less than 0. And then I chose 5, which did not work, and then 8 worked. So anything from 0 to 4 works, and also 6 to infinity. So let's look at one in which we have to solve it. Okay? So in this case, we have x cubed plus 2x squared, which is less than or equal to x plus 2. So the first thing I got to do is try to get it so that one side is 0. And so I'm going to subtract x and subtract 2 from both sides. Now we're going to factor it. Now the good thing is I think this is factorable by grouping. So x squared goes into both of those terms. So I got x plus 2. And then -1 goes into both of those two. So that means I got x squared minus 1, x plus 2. And that gives me x plus 1, x minus 1, x plus 2, which gives me zeros at x equals -1, x equals 1, and x equals -2. So I'm going to plug those values in, those zeros into this. And then I'm going to choose values. I'm going to choose like -1.5. I'm going to choose -6. I'm going to choose 0. And I'm going to choose 2. And plug those in to this inequality right here. Actually, I'm going to plug it into this one. It doesn't matter which one. It's going to work out both ways. So when I plug -6 in, I got -140. And that is less than or equal to 0, so that is a solution. When I plug -1.5 in, I got 0.625, which is not less than or equal to 0, so that's not a solution. I plug 0 in, I got -2, which is less than or equal to 0, so that is a solution. And then when I plug 2 in, I got 12, which is not less than or equal to 0. Okay, so my solutions would be negative infinity to negative 6 union all the way from, oh, that should have been a bracket right there because it's equal to, and then this is a bracket too, and that would be 1 to infinity. Sorry, it would be negative 1 to 1. Okay. Probably should have graphed my number line to help me out here. So I chose negative 2, negative 1, and 1. We found out that anything to the left of negative 2 worked. And then anything between negative 1 and 1 worked. Okay, so that's how I got that inequality. I'm going to ask you guys just to try this next example. And then pause the video, just try it, and we'll talk through it. So in this one, factored it out, I got zeros to be negative 1, 1, and negative 7. I used negative 7, so I chose negative 10, chose a negative 3, chose 0 and 8. And what I found is that anything from negative 7 to negative 1 worked, and then anything from 1 to infinity worked. Hopefully this was helpful. We're going to have you guys do some practice on this right now.